What's the difference between someone who survives a recession and someone who gets financially destroyed by it? After consulting 50-plus financial advisors, I discovered it comes down to 6 specific strategies, and most people are missing at least 4 of them. It's like driving in a hurricane with broken windshield wipers. In today's video, I'm revealing these 6 financial warning signs that separate those who thrive from those who struggle. By the end, you'll know exactly where you stand and how to strengthen your financial position before small vulnerabilities become serious problems. Warning sign number 1. Your emergency fund is practically empty. Imagine waking up to your car not starting, checking your bank account, and realizing you're totally screwed. Your heart sinks as you realize this one unexpected expense is about to snowball into a financial nightmare. Welcome to the reality for a shocking 41% of Americans who can't cover a $1,000 emergency without diving into debt. Let that sink in. Almost half the country is one broken transmission away from financial disaster. The shocking truth about emergency funds? Most people drastically underestimate what they actually need. You might think having a few $100 tucked away makes you financially responsible, but that's like bringing a water gun to fight a house fire. It looks like you're prepared until the actual emergency hits. Here's where things get weird with financial advice. Everyone from TikTok money gurus to your dad's old-school financial planner pushes the 3 to 6 months of expenses rule. But they rarely explain what actually counts as an expense or how to calculate your true number. It's like being told to pack for a trip without knowing where you're going or for how long. Let's talk about Jamie. She felt financially secure with $5,000 saved, until her apartment flooded the same week her company announced layoffs. That cushion evaporated faster than free food at an office party. The emergency fund math most people mess up involves thinking only about the obvious expenses while ignoring the complete picture. Your emergency fund calculation must include all essential expenses: housing costs, rent/mortgage, insurance, taxes, food, including those impulse DoorDash orders, utilities, insurance premiums, and crucially, minimum debt payments on everything from student loans to credit cards. Imagine standing in your kitchen at 2 a.m., scrolling through your banking app with shaking hands, desperately calculating if you can afford both the emergency car repair and next month's rent. That pit in your stomach feeling is exactly what a proper emergency fund prevents. Your emergency fund absolutely does not belong in 1. Your regular checking account, where it mixes with everyday money and mysteriously disappears. 2. Under your mattress, unless you're particularly fond of dust mites. 3. The stock market, because nothing says emergency like having to sell investments during a market crash. High-yield savings accounts are essential for your emergency fund. When inflation is eating away at your money like termites on wood, you need every bit of interest you can get. Plus, keeping emergency money separate creates a psychological barrier that says break glass only in case of actual emergency, rather than concert tickets. The psychological benefits of having a proper emergency fund are massive. Studies show people with adequate emergency savings experience 60% less financial anxiety. Think about that. More than half your money stress could potentially vanish just by building this financial buffer. It works like a financial chill pill that's active around the clock. I know what you're thinking. That's great for people who actually have money to save, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Trust me, I get it. The solution isn't some fantasy budget that assumes you can magically save $1,000 a month. Real solutions work for real people, not just financial influencers who inherited their wealth mindset and a trust fund. Here's how to calculate your true emergency fund number. Step 1. Track all essential spending for 1 month. And I mean everything. Your Netflix subscription might feel essential, but in a true emergency, it's not. Focus on housing, food, grocery store, not restaurants, utilities, insurance premiums, minimum debt payments, necessary transportation costs, and essential medical expenses. Step 2. Multiply that number by 3 as your starter emergency fund goal. Yes, eventually you'll want 6 months, but let's not get overwhelmed before we start. Step 3. Add in one-time annual expenses you can't avoid, like property taxes or insurance deductibles. These are the surprise budget killers most people forget about. Now, building this fund when you're starting from zero. First, create a separate high-yield savings account specifically for emergencies. Having this physical separation makes a huge psychological difference. Second, Start with saving just 1% of your income, then increase by 1% each month until it feels uncomfortable, then stay at that level. This gradual approach tricks your brain into adjusting without triggering financial panic. Third, automate these transfers to happen the day after payday. What you don't see, you don't miss. Fourth, throw found money directly into this account. Tax refunds, birthday cash, work bonuses, that $20 bill you found in your winter coat. Straight to the emergency fund until you hit your target. Fifth, consider a strategic side hustle specifically for emergency fund building. Even something that nets you an extra $100 a week adds up to over $5,000 a year. Most importantly, celebrate the small wins along the way. Hit $500 saved? That's already more than most Americans have. Reached 1 month of expenses? You're now more financially prepared than roughly 70% of the country. Remember, the goal isn't to build this overnight. Financial security is a marathon, not a sprint. Each dollar you add to your emergency fund is another brick in the wall between you and financial disaster. That 41% of Americans we talked about earlier? You're actively taking steps to make sure you're not among them when life inevitably throws its next curveball your way. Warning sign number 2. Your credit score is secretly sabotaging you. Now that your emergency wall is under construction, let's talk about the invisible force that's quietly draining your wallet without you even realizing it. Your credit score might seem like just another boring number, but here's the mind blower. A difference of just 100 points could cost you over $200,000 in extra interest payments throughout your lifetime. That's literally the price of an entire house in many parts of the country. The credit system feels like it was deliberately designed to confuse us. Most people think they've got it figured out. Pay my bills on time, and I'm good, right? But that only accounts for 35% of your score. The remaining 65% comes from factors that most people completely ignore, and it's costing them big time. Your FICO score is calculated from 5 key factors: payment history, 35%, credit utilization, 30%, length of credit history, 15%, recent credit applications, 10%, and credit mix, 10%. Most people focus exclusively on payment history while ignoring the other critical elements that make up 2/3 of their potential score. Let's bust a major credit myth right now. You've probably heard that keeping your credit card utilization under 30% is good enough, right? That advice is actually holding you back. People with the highest credit scores typically maintain utilization below 10%. If you're proudly sitting at 25% thinking you're winning, you're actually leaving serious points on the table. Here's what this looks like in real life. If you have a $10,000 credit limit and regularly carry a $3,000 balance, you're at 30% utilization. To the credit bureaus, you look like someone who relies too heavily on credit. Meanwhile, your neighbor who never exceeds $800 on that same limit is quietly building a stellar credit score. Common credit mistakes that damage your score. Closing old credit cards. This can tank your score by up to 50 points overnight by shortening your credit history length and increasing your overall utilization ratio. Having only one type of credit. Credit bureaus reward you for responsibly handling different types of debt. Ignoring statement dates. When your balance gets reported matters more than your payment date. Let me show you what this means for your wallet. 2 identical people, same job, same income, same down payment, apply for a $300,000 mortgage. The first has a 720 credit score. The second has a 770. That 50-point difference means a 0.5% higher interest rate for the first person. This translates to $100 more in monthly payments and an extra $36,000 over a 30-year mortgage, all because of 50 credit score points. This same pattern repeats with car loans, personal loans, and even affects insurance premiums in many states. The financial impact is massive over your lifetime. So what can you actually do about this? Here are 3 powerful ways to boost your score that most people never try. First, strategic utilization management. Don't wait until your due date to pay down balances. Credit card companies typically report to the bureaus on your statement date. By paying down your balance before this reporting date, you control what gets reported. Here's how this works. If you have a $5,000 limit card with a $2,500 balance, 50% utilization. Paying it down to $400, 8% utilization, before the statement date can boost your score by 20 plus points in a single cycle. Second, become an authorized user on someone else's well-established credit card. If you have a parent, spouse, or trusted friend with excellent credit history, ask if they'll add you as an authorized user. You don't even need to use the card. Their long history of on-time payments will reflect in your score. Third, request credit limit increases on your existing cards. This immediately improves your utilization ratio without you spending a penny. Many banks allow online requests without a hard credit pull, so there's literally no downside. The secret utilization sweet spot that top credit scorers maintain isn't 30%. It's actually below 10%. Some credit experts even recommend keeping it under 7% for maximum points. It sounds extreme, but remember that utilization is 30% of your score, almost as important as payment history. Here's a quick 2-week credit score hack that could boost your score by 30 plus points. Pay down your credit card balances to below 10% of their limits. Don't apply for any new credit, and don't close any accounts. Then, ask for a credit limit increase on your oldest card. This simple sequence targets the 2 biggest factors in your score beyond payment history and can show results when your score updates in the next cycle. The crazy thing is, 72% of people dramatically overestimate the cost of things like life insurance, and this same misunderstanding applies to credit scores. Most people simply don't understand how the system works, so they can't possibly optimize it. Think of your credit score as a game. Once you know the actual rules, not just the ones everyone thinks they know, you can start winning. And winning this particular game means potentially saving hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Warning sign number 3, you're relying on a single income stream. Speaking of games with real money consequences, let me ask you something uncomfortable. If your paycheck suddenly stopped tomorrow, how long would you survive financially? While you've mastered the credit game, 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And what's scarier? A whopping 68% of them are playing financial Russian roulette with just one source of income. Remember when our parents told us to find a stable job and stick with it for 40 years? That advice expired somewhere between the 2008 recession and the gig economy explosion. That dream of company loyalty and gold watches at retirement ceremonies has vanished. Yet most people's income strategies remain trapped in the 1980s. Those specialized professionals with impressive LinkedIn profiles, they're actually more vulnerable. When they lose their jobs, research shows they often spend over 6 months searching for equivalent work. That's half a year with zero income. Imagine being a specialized engineer or healthcare administrator suddenly needing to replace a 6-figure salary. The more specialized your skills, the smaller your pool of potential employers, which equals longer unemployment periods when things go sideways. Having just one income stream is basically putting all your investment money into a single stock. We'd never tell someone, hey, just buy all the Apple stock you can and nothing else. That would be terrible financial advice. Yet when it comes to income, we're totally fine with that exact same risky approach. Your primary job is subject to factors outside your control. Company downsizing, industry disruption, economic downturns, health issues that prevent you from working, or even just a new boss who doesn't like you. The psychological impact of income diversification is huge too. Studies show people with multiple income streams report 42% higher financial confidence and significantly lower stress levels. Think about it. If you know you have money coming in from different sources, losing one doesn't mean total financial disaster. It's the difference between this really sucks and I'm completely screwed. Now I can hear you saying, that sounds great, but I barely have time to do laundry, let alone start a side hustle. I get it, between work, family, friends, and trying to squeeze in some self-care, who has spare hours lying around. But this mindset is exactly what keeps so many people financially vulnerable. Side hustles don't have to consume your life. They can fit whatever skills you already have and whatever time you can realistically commit. Maybe you can only spare 3 to 5 hours a week. That's totally fine. The point is to create income diversity that protects you when something happens to your main job. Think of the income stream spectrum like a financial buffet where you can choose options based on your appetite for time commitment and risk. On one end, you've got active side hustles requiring your direct time and effort, freelance writing, graphic design, tutoring, or selling products online. These start with minimal investment, and you can often charge premium rates for specialized skills. In the middle, semi-passive income streams require some upfront work, but less ongoing time, like creating digital products, building a small rental portfolio, or content creation generating ad revenue. These take more initial setup, but create ongoing income with less regular maintenance. On the far end, fully passive investments like dividend stocks or real estate investment trusts generate income with almost no regular time commitment. These typically require more capital upfront, but almost no ongoing time. The key is matching your approach to your reality. If you're a graphic designer by day, maybe create templates to sell on Etsy. If you're good at explaining complex topics, online tutoring might be your thing. The goal is to leverage what you already know in a different format or market. Real people are doing this every day. Melissa, a full-time marketing manager, spends just 4 hours weekly creating content for small businesses, bringing in an extra $800 monthly. James, an IT professional, built a simple troubleshooting course that generates around $500 monthly in passive income after the initial creation work. This income diversification provides more than just money. It delivers peace of mind, greater career flexibility, and financial confidence. With those benefits in mind, here's a practical 3-tier framework you can implement without burning out. Tier 1, skill-based quick wins. Look at what you're already good at and find a platform to monetize it for 3 to 5 hours weekly. Good at math. Online tutoring pays $25 to $50 per hour. Decent writer? Content creation can pay $50 to $100 per article. Have design skills? Freelance projects can pay $300 to $500 each. Tier 2, product creation. Once you've established your first income stream, create something once that can sell repeatedly: digital downloads, templates, guides, or courses related to your expertise. Tier 3, passive investment. As your side income grows, direct a portion into truly passive investments like dividend stocks or REITs that require zero ongoing time but create another income stream. This approach is scalable. You might start with just $200 extra per month, but as you refine your offerings and build a client base, that can grow to $500, $1,000, or more. That extra $500 monthly is $6,000 per year that can strengthen your emergency fund, accelerate debt payoff, or build your investment portfolio. People who implement this framework report that the security of multiple income streams actually improves their performance at their primary job. When you're not desperately clinging to your paycheck out of fear, you make better career decisions and can even negotiate more confidently. Warning sign number 4. You're throwing away thousands in tax advantages. While creating multiple income streams protects you from losing money, there's another silent wealth killer lurking in your finances. Here's something that might shock you. 2 people with identical salaries, identical investment returns, and identical savings habits can end up with dramatically different retirement accounts after 30 years. The difference? One paid attention to tax efficiency, while the other didn't. Let me show you the real impact. Imagine 2 investors, both 30 years old, both investing $6,000 annually, both earning the same 8% average return. After 30 years, the tax-efficient investor ends up with nearly $200,000 more in their portfolio. They didn't earn more or save more. They simply positioned their investments more strategically for tax purposes. Those extra income streams you're building are fantastic, but with every additional dollar you earn, Uncle Sam wants his cut. The average millennial is overpaying their taxes by $1,800 every year simply because they're missing basic tax strategies that wealthy people use religiously. Most of us treat taxes like that annoying once-a-year paperwork nightmare we deal with every April. We gather receipts, maybe panic call an accountant, file our returns, and forget about it until next year. But financially savvy people understand that tax planning is a year-round strategy that can literally make or break your wealth-building efforts. But I already max out my 401k. I hear you saying, that's great, but blindly following the max out your 401k advice might actually be the wrong move depending on your specific situation. Let me explain why. You've probably heard about tax-advantaged accounts like 401k, S and IRAs, but there's actually a hierarchy to these accounts that most people get completely backwards. Which accounts you should prioritize depends on your age, current income, and future goals. Tax optimization strategies that can dramatically increase your wealth include Roth accounts for young professionals. If you're in your 20s or 30s and expect to be in a higher tax bracket later, maxing out Roth accounts might be significantly more beneficial than traditional pre-tax accounts. You'll pay taxes now at your lower rate, but enjoy tax-free growth and withdrawals later. Roth Conversion Ladder Strategy. This approach allows you to gradually convert funds from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, spreading out the tax impact. By methodically moving money from tax-deferred to tax-free status, you set yourself up for tax-free withdrawals in retirement. Tax loss harvesting. When investments in your taxable accounts drop in value, you can sell them to lock in those losses on paper. These losses can offset your capital gains and even reduce your ordinary income by up to $3,000 per year. Then you can immediately reinvest in similar investments to maintain your market position. The wealthy use these strategies religiously, especially tax loss harvesting during market downturns, essentially getting a discount from Uncle Sam when the market is already giving them a sale. Meanwhile, 92% of individual investors completely miss out on these opportunities. I know what you're thinking. This sounds complicated, and I don't want to become a tax expert. Good news. The simplest tax optimization strategy requires zero financial expertise and can be implemented in a single afternoon. Ready for the approach that wealthy people use to minimize taxes without needing to become investment gurus? It comes down to two main principles: using index funds and strategic account placement. Index funds are naturally more tax efficient than actively managed funds because they have significantly lower turnover rates. When funds constantly buy and sell investments, high turnover, they generate more taxable events for you. Index funds typically just hold their positions, resulting in fewer capital gains distributions and therefore lower tax bills. The real magic happens when you pair index funds with strategic account placement. This connects tax theory with your day-to-day money management, creating a framework that maximizes what you keep after taxes. Place your investments strategically. Hold your most tax-inefficient investments, like bonds or REITs that generate regular income, in tax-sheltered accounts like 401k, and IRAs. Keep your most tax-efficient investments, like growth-oriented index funds with minimal dividends, in taxable brokerage accounts. Reserve Roth accounts for investments with the highest growth potential. This ensures that investments that would trigger the most taxes are sheltered, while investments that generate minimal tax consequences can safely live in your taxable accounts. The beauty of this approach? You set it up once, and then make minor adjustments maybe once or twice a year. No constant monitoring, no stress, no advanced degree in taxation required. Here's your actionable game plan. 1. Take full advantage of tax-advantaged accounts based on your specific situation, not just following generic advice. 2. Implement tax loss harvesting whenever the market takes a significant dip. 3. Organize your investments across your accounts based on their tax efficiency. These 3 moves alone could potentially save you thousands in taxes every year, and hundreds of thousands over your lifetime. Warning sign number 5. Your liability protection has dangerous gaps. Tax strategies might save you thousands, but there's a financial threat so severe it bankrupts more Americans than poor investing, overspending, and job loss combined. That health insurance card in your wallet? For 2/3 of people who declare bankruptcy due to medical issues, it turned out to be completely useless. And the terrifying part is that over half of them actually had insurance when disaster struck. Health insurance is often an expensive illusion with massive gaps. Most people grab whatever plan their employer offers, add basic car and renter's insurance, and think they've checked the responsible adult box. But standard insurance policies are designed with strategic gaps that leave you financially exposed in unexpected ways. That affordable, high-deductible health plan you chose to save on monthly premiums? The average cost of just a 3-day hospital stay is around $30,000. With a $7,000 deductible plus coinsurance, you're looking at over $10,000 out of pocket before insurance kicks in, assuming everything is in-network and approved. Jake thought he was being smart with his bronze-level health plan. When he needed emergency surgery after a bike accident, he discovered his hospital was in-network, but the surgeon wasn't. That distinction left him with a $22,000 bill his insurance company refused to cover. Now he's making $400 monthly payments that will take years to clear, creating constant stress and anxiety that affects every aspect of his life. The disability insurance gap, leaves 70% of workers vulnerable if they suddenly can't work. Your employer might offer short-term disability, but what happens after those benefits run out at 12 weeks and you're still unable to work? Without long-term disability insurance, your income drops to zero while your expenses continue piling up. Sarah learned this when a car accident left her unable to work for 18 months. Her employer provided short-term disability, covered the first 3 months at 60% of her salary. After that, nothing. Within a year, she'd burned through her emergency fund, drained her 401k, paying massive penalties, and was nearly homeless, all because she lacked proper disability coverage to replace her income during recovery. The psychological toll of watching her savings disappear was almost as devastating as her physical injuries. Liability exposure is another blind spot. Your auto insurance might have liability limits of $100,000 per person/$300,000 per accident, which sounds substantial until a serious accident results in damages exceeding those limits. If someone sues you for $500,000 and wins, you're paying that extra $200,000, potentially with your house, investments, and future wages. This is where umbrella liability insurance becomes critical, especially if your net worth is approaching $1 million. For a few $100s a year, you can get an additional $1 to $2 million in liability coverage that kicks in after your regular policies reach their limits. It's the most cost-effective insurance relative to the protection it provides, yet most people have never heard of it. Mark, a middle school teacher, never thought he needed rich people insurance, like an umbrella policy. That changed when his teenage son accidentally caused a multi-car accident. The damages exceeded his auto policy limits by $230,000, and the court ordered Mark to liquidate investments and set up a payment plan that affected his finances for nearly a decade. A $300 annual umbrella policy would have covered the entire excess amount. What makes these insurance gaps particularly dangerous is that they remain invisible until disaster strikes. You pay premiums month after month, believing you're protected, only to discover the crushing reality when you actually need that coverage. It's like building a beautiful house, but forgetting to install a roof. Everything seems fine until it rains. 1 in 4 people will experience a disability that prevents them from working before retirement age. Insurance isn't about what's likely to happen. It's about protecting yourself from financial devastation of what could happen. So what's the solution? You need a comprehensive liability protection framework. Here's what that looks like. 1. Health insurance. Audit your current plan to understand your true out-of-pocket maximum. With high-deductible plans, fund an HSA at least to your deductible amount. Always verify both the facility and provider are in-network before any planned procedure. 2. Disability protection. Supplement employer coverage with an individual long-term disability policy covering 60 to 70% of your income. A 30-year-old can typically get solid coverage for $50 to $150 per month, while waiting until 45 could double or triple that cost. 3. Liability coverage. Increase auto and homeowners/renters liability limits to the maximum available, usually $300,000 or $500,000, before adding umbrella coverage. 4. Umbrella policy. Your umbrella policy limit should at least match your net worth. If your combined assets total $800,000, aim for a $1 million umbrella policy. 5. Life insurance. If anyone depends on your income, get term coverage of 10 to 12 times your annual salary. 6. Professional liability. If you provide advice or services professionally, get errors and omissions coverage specific to your field. Implementing this protection framework costs less than most people expect. For someone with a $500,000 net worth, the total additional annual premium might be $800 to $1,200 above what you're currently paying. That's $70 to $100 per month to ensure one medical emergency or accident doesn't wipe out decades of hard work and savings. Many people spend more than that on coffee or streaming services each month while leaving themselves exposed to potential financial ruin. Don't wait for a crisis to discover your coverage gaps. Audit your protection today using the checklist above to make sure you're never one accident away from bankruptcy, regardless of what life throws your way. Warning sign number 6. You've stopped learning about money. With proper insurance coverage protecting your financial house, you might think you've handled the biggest threats to your wealth. But there's something even more fundamental that most Americans are missing. Despite having access to more financial information than any generation before us, fewer than 25% of adults globally understand basic concepts like compound interest and inflation. This knowledge gap is costing the average person over $1.2 million in lifetime wealth. Let's talk about the final warning sign that could be silently sabotaging your financial future. You've stopped actively learning about money. And I'm talking about intentional, consistent financial education, not scrolling through #FinTalk for 30 seconds or skimming clickbait headlines about the next big investment. Here's something wild. When researchers study what actually predicts financial success, it's your commitment to learning. The strongest predictor is whether you spend at least 1 hour per week deliberately learning about personal finance. 1 single hour. That's less time than most of us spend deciding what to watch on Netflix. Most of us think financial education is something we complete, like a course or certification. I took that money management class in college, or I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in 2015, so I'm good. That's exactly like saying you went to the gym for a week 5 years ago, so you're physically fit for life. Your financial fitness works the same way. Without consistent workouts, your money muscles get weak, and your financial health deteriorates. Financial education is an ongoing process that wealthy people prioritize throughout their entire lives. Warren Buffett still spends 80% of his day reading and learning, despite being one of the richest people on the planet. Meanwhile, the average American spends less than 2 minutes per day learning about money matters. The financial landscape changes constantly. Tax laws get overhauled. Investment platforms evolve. Retirement account rules shift. That's solid financial advice from 2015? It might actually be harmful in today's environment. Remember when put 20% down on a house no matter what was gospel? Then mortgage rates hit historic lows, and suddenly putting down less and investing the difference made more mathematical sense for some people. Or how about the old save 10% of your income for retirement rule? With increasing lifespans and changing pension systems, that advice is dangerously inadequate for most people today. There's a massive financial education gap in our society, and it's not your fault. You spent thousands of hours in school learning about mitochondria and the Battle of Hastings, but probably 0 hours learning how credit cards actually work or how to file taxes. According to research by financial economist Anna Maria Lusardi, only 28.5% of survey participants could correctly answer 3 basic financial literacy questions. This creates what experts call the financial literacy paradox. About 70% of people think they understand personal finance pretty well, but when tested, barely 30% can pass even a basic financial literacy test. We don't know what we don't know, and that blind spot is expensive. People who understand basic financial concepts are demonstrably better at managing money, saving more for retirement, and making smarter investment decisions. They're also better at assessing and managing risk within their portfolios, which leads to more favorable financial outcomes over time. Take Melissa, a teacher who started spending just 1 hour each Sunday morning learning about money while enjoying her coffee. Within 6 months, she identified 3 major financial leaks in her budget, restructured her student loans to save $12,000 in interest, and set up an investment account that would grow 40% faster than her previous approach. She didn't get a raise or work harder. She just made better decisions with the same income by upgrading her financial knowledge. There are 3 key areas where most people have dangerous knowledge gaps. First is tax optimization, understanding how different investment accounts are taxed and how to structure your finances to minimize tax drag. Second is investment psychology, knowing how your brain works during market volatility. Third is wealth protection strategies, understanding how to shield your assets from lawsuits, unexpected health crises, and other wealth-destroying events. The real-world impact is staggering. Take 2 people starting with identical $50,000 salaries. Person A follows conventional wisdom without further education. Person B invests just 1 hour per week learning about financial strategies. After 30 years, the knowledge difference alone can create a wealth gap of over $1 million. This education advantage compounds over time, just like interest. Small optimizations in taxes, investments, insurance, and debt management add up to massive differences over decades. Financial education doesn't require expensive courses. Many successful people follow a simple weekly system. 20 minutes reading high-quality financial content, 20 minutes learning about a specific money topic they're weak on, and 20 minutes reviewing their own financial numbers and decisions. This kind of regular financial education reduces stress and anxiety by equipping you with skills to create effective budgets and exercise better control over spending. Learning about money helps your mental health as much as your wallet. What makes this warning sign different from the others we've covered? It's 100% within your control. You can't control the economy or whether your company decides to downsize. But you absolutely can control whether you spend 1 hour this week learning something new about money. Start by identifying your biggest financial knowledge gap. Is it investing? Taxes? Insurance? Find one high-quality resource and commit to spending just 20 minutes 3 times this week learning about that topic. Many financially successful people use the 1-3-5 method. Learn one new financial concept each week, read 3 articles from trustworthy financial sources, and spend 5 minutes reviewing their own numbers. This simple system creates the consistency that builds financial confidence and competence over time. The 30-day Financial Resilience Challenge. Learning about money consistently is powerful. But what if I told you there's a structured framework that could transform your entire financial situation in just 30 days? While most people who try to overhaul their finances quit within 2 weeks, those who follow a specific sequence are nearly 3 times more likely to succeed. The secret isn't working harder. It's working smarter in the right order. Look, I get it. When you realize your finances need work, the natural instinct is to try fixing everything at once. You promise yourself you'll build that emergency fund, boost your credit score, start a side hustle, and fix your insurance gaps all in the same week. Then reality hits, you get overwhelmed, and nothing actually gets done. Sound familiar? Financial resilience depends on the order in which you build your money skills. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't put up walls before laying the foundation. The same principle applies to your finances. That's where the 30-day Financial Resilience Challenge comes in. Instead of tackling everything simultaneously, we break things down into a weekly progression that builds momentum rather than frustration. ## Week 1, Emergency Fund Kickstart. This first week is all about creating immediate financial security. Even if you're starting from absolute zero, you'll establish a solid foundation by creating a separate high-yield savings account specifically for emergencies and setting up automated transfers that move money the day after you get paid, even if it's just $20 to start. What makes this approach different is the focus on automating small wins rather than hitting a huge target. Research shows people who automate their savings from day one are 83% more likely to stick with their financial plans. By Friday, you won't have a complete emergency fund, but you'll have something that didn't exist before, a functioning safety system growing on autopilot while you move to the next step. ## Week 2, Credit Optimization. Now we shift focus to your credit with a completely different approach than most advice you've heard. Instead of trying to fix every aspect, you'll identify and tackle the highest impact factors first. The checklist starts with a comprehensive credit report review. Not just your score, but the actual reports from all 3 bureaus. About 20% of credit reports contain serious errors that can be quickly disputed. Next, you'll implement the utilization sweet spot technique, focusing on getting your utilization percentages into single digits on your most frequently reported cards. By targeting the specific levers that move your score fastest, you'll build momentum that carries you into the more challenging weeks ahead, feeling confident as you see tangible improvements in your financial foundation. ## Week 3, Income Diversification. This week tackles your earning potential. Research shows individuals who successfully add even small secondary income streams report significantly reduced financial stress. The average side hustle brings in around $810 per month. Imagine what that extra cushion would do for your financial confidence. Instead of suggesting random side hustles, you'll complete a comprehensive skills and time availability assessment. You'll map existing abilities against potential income opportunities, considering both your available time and energy levels. If you have technical skills but limited time, you might focus on high-value, low-time commitment freelance projects. If you have more time but fewer specialized skills, you could explore content creation or service-based side hustles. By Sunday, you'll have identified at least one viable income diversification strategy and taken the first concrete step toward implementation. Hashtag week 4, protection audit. The final week focuses on identifying and filling dangerous gaps in your insurance coverage. This isn't about blindly buying more insurance. It's about strategically protecting yourself from specific risks that could derail your progress. You'll conduct a systematic review of your current protection across 4 key areas most likely to cause financial disaster: health coverage gaps, income protection, disability insurance, liability exposure, and life insurance needs for those with dependents. For each area, you'll assess your coverage against recommended benchmarks and identify priority gaps to close first. What makes this week powerful is how it builds on previous weeks. The emergency fund you started provides short-term protection, while optimized insurance coverage delivers long-term security, working together as a comprehensive protection strategy. Throughout the 30-day challenge, you'll track progress using the Financial Resilience Checklist. Each completed item represents a vulnerability addressed and a potential financial disaster prevented. The psychological benefits are just as important. Research shows individuals who engage in structured financial improvement activities report significantly lower anxiety levels. This 30-day approach is designed for realistic progress, not perfection. You won't completely transform your finances in a month, but you'll establish systems and habits that continue working long after the challenge ends. Each week builds on the previous one, creating compound benefits that grow over time. By day 30, you'll have more than improved finances. You'll have a comprehensive understanding of your vulnerabilities and the tools to address them. You'll know exactly where you stand and what to focus on next. Most importantly, you'll have broken the cycle of financial procrastination that keeps so many people stuck in money stress forever. Why most people will ignore these warning signs, don't be one of them. That financial procrastination we just talked about, it's not actually about being lazy or unmotivated. Your brain is literally working against you in ways you wouldn't expect. When researchers studied why smart people make poor money choices, they discovered something fascinating. Most of us see our future self as basically a stranger, which explains why saving feels like giving money to someone you've never met. Let's get real about why most of us nod along to financial advice, but then do absolutely nothing with it. Understanding these psychological roadblocks is actually the first step to getting past them. It's like parking your car on a steep hill without setting the brake. You know it's dangerous, but somehow you convince yourself it'll be fine this time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. About 80% of you watching right now will totally get these warning signs, maybe even feel a little anxious about them. But then, continue scrolling after this video ends without taking any action. Let's make sure you're in that other 20% who actually transforms their financial future. Financial procrastination is the #1 wealth killer out there. But it's not because you're lazy or don't care enough. The research is super clear. Our brains are hardwired with some pretty sneaky psychological barriers that make financial planning feel like the last thing we want to do. The overwhelm factor hits us hard. When we look at our finances as one massive mountain to climb, our brains basically short-circuit. It's like walking into a messy apartment, and instead of starting with just cleaning the kitchen, you get so overwhelmed you end up ordering takeout and binging Netflix. This is exactly why the 30-day challenge breaks everything down into tiny weekly chunks. People who tackle just one financial area at a time are nearly 3 times more likely to stick with their improvements long-term. Want to beat the overwhelm? Start with just one small financial task this week. Seriously, just one. Then there's the future self disconnect. This is mind-blowing when you really think about it. Studies show that when most people imagine themselves 10, 20, or 30 years in the future, their brains activate in almost the exact same pattern as when they think about a complete stranger. When you're deciding between buying something nice today versus saving for retirement, your brain processes that as, should I enjoy this right now, or give this money to some random person? To overcome this, try spending 5 minutes visualizing your future self in specific detail. Where you'll live, what you'll do daily, who you'll spend time with. This simple exercise can dramatically increase your motivation to save. The social comparison game keeps us financially stuck too. We scroll through Instagram seeing people our age with new cars and amazing vacations, not realizing they're either drowning in debt or had major advantages we don't know about. This warps our sense of what normal spending looks like. Heavy social media, users consistently overestimate how much their peers spend by up to 35%. This becomes their excuse for overspending or not saving. The antidote? Try a 1-week social media detox and notice how your spending urges change. But here's where things get interesting. People making small, consistent improvements, even just saving an extra 1% each month or spending 15 minutes weekly reviewing their finances, ended up dramatically better off than those waiting for the perfect time to overhaul everything. It's like fitness. The person who does 10-minute workouts consistently crushes the person who plans to go to the gym for 2 hours but never actually goes. This is why 63% of financial advisors now incorporate psychological principles into their wealth management. They've realized that the best financial plan is useless if it doesn't account for how our brains actually work. So how do we beat these barriers? Having the right accountability system makes all the difference. Create visual progress trackers where you can see your financial strength growing over time. This triggers the same satisfaction centers in your brain as completing levels in a video game. Pairing up with a financial accountability buddy is another game changer. People who check in regularly with someone about their financial goals are 76% more likely to follow through. This could be a friend, partner, or even a financial advisor if you've got those resources. For a more DIY approach, try the implementation intention technique. Instead of vague plans like "I'll start saving more," create specific if-then plans. If it's Friday when I get paid, I'll immediately transfer $100 to my emergency fund. This simple switch can double or triple your follow-through rate. Another powerful hack? Use temptation bundling. Pair something you need to do, like reviewing your budget, with something you actually enjoy, like your favorite coffee or show. Eventually, your brain starts associating financial management with positive feelings instead of dread. For tracking progress, create a simple financial resilience checklist where each completed item represents a vulnerability you've addressed. Every time you check something off, you get that little hit of accomplishment that keeps you motivated. Each small win makes the next step feel more achievable, and people report significantly lower financial anxiety within just a few weeks, long before their actual financial situation has dramatically changed. The financial resilience scorecard. Where do you stand? While tracking progress feels great, there's a massive difference between perceived and actual financial safety. Ever wondered why some seemingly financially responsible people still end up in financial disasters? That's because according to recent studies, the majority of Americans have dangerous blind spots in their financial foundation that no amount of positive thinking can fix. And you might be one of them. Let's get real about your financial situation. Knowing about warning signs is one thing, but understanding exactly where you stand right now is what actually matters. It's like those people who watch workout videos without ever breaking a sweat. Information without application won't magically improve your finances. Financial experts have found that even those who consider themselves financially savvy typically score poorly in at least 2 of the 6 critical areas we've covered. Your financial foundation is like a fortress with 6 walls. When even one wall crumbles, everything you've built becomes vulnerable to collapse during life's inevitable storms, no matter how strong the other defenses appear. Let me introduce the Financial Resilience Scorecard that helps you honestly assess where you stand across all 6 critical areas. Emergency Fund Assessment. Where do you fall on the spectrum from financially exposed to fully protected? Financial experts recommend building a safety net starting with even small amounts like $500 or $1,000. If you lost your income tomorrow, how many weeks could you survive without touching credit cards or borrowing? Be brutally honest about what you have right now. Credit Optimization Score. This evaluates if your credit management practices align with top performers. Are you actively monitoring all 5 factors that influence your score, or are you still fixated only on making minimum payments? Excellent credit management requires implementation, not just knowledge. Income Diversity Rating. This measures your vulnerability to income disruption. If your primary income source disappeared tomorrow, what percentage of essential expenses could you cover with secondary income streams? Many falsely believe they could always find another job quickly, but that confidence rarely matches reality. Tax Efficiency Grade. This reveals how much you might be overpaying in taxes based on current strategies. Most people have no idea if they're maximizing tax advantages or leaving thousands of dollars on the table each year. The money never hits your account, so you don't even realize you're overpaying. A liability protection evaluation. Common financial blind spots include not understanding the true risks in your financial life. How does your insurance coverage compare to recommended levels for your life stage? Most people dramatically underestimate both the likelihood and financial impact of major life disruptions. Financial education commitment. Studies show financial literacy is crucial for managing personal finances effectively. While 86% of Americans believe personal finance education should be mandatory in schools, most adults do nothing to fill this knowledge gap. How many hours last month did you dedicate to improving your financial knowledge? This assessment isn't just about identifying problems. It creates a personalized roadmap for strengthening your financial foundation. The Financial Literacy and Education Commission highlights how proper assessment leads to better outcomes across all demographics. What makes this approach powerful is its customization. Your financial vulnerabilities are as unique as your fingerprint. The combination of your income, expenses, life stage, and future goals creates a financial DNA that requires a tailored approach. A personalized assessment identifies which areas need immediate attention versus which can wait. Research shows 60% of people feel anxious when thinking about personal finances. This anxiety directly links to low financial literacy and problematic behaviors. The good news: people who complete structured assessments report significantly reduced financial anxiety within weeks of addressing their blind spots. The Scorecard approach gamifies financial improvement. Instead of facing an overwhelming mountain of financial to-dos, you get clear, actionable scores in each area. Each improvement increases your overall resilience score, creating a motivating feedback loop that keeps you engaged. The downloadable Financial Resilience Scorecard removes emotion from the equation. When we self-assess without structure, we overestimate strengths and downplay weaknesses. The scorecard evaluates specific metrics rather than vague feelings about your finances. Many people discover they've been obsessing over minor financial concerns while overlooking major vulnerabilities. You might meticulously budget every dollar, but have inadequate insurance coverage, essentially counting pennies, while leaving yourself exposed to financial catastrophe. The assessment reveals interesting patterns across demographics. Young professionals often score well on income diversity, but poorly on emergency funds. Mid-career individuals excel at credit optimization, but neglect tax efficiency. Near-retirees typically have strong emergency savings, but underestimate liability protection needs. By completing your scorecard, you'll receive specific, prioritized action steps tailored to your situation. From here, you'll transform these insights into concrete actions that systematically strengthen each wall of your financial fortress, creating true financial resilience that can withstand whatever economic storms may come. The one financial move to make today, if you do nothing else. Looking at your scorecard might feel overwhelming, but here's a little secret. You don't need to fix everything at once. In fact, trying to overhaul your entire financial life simultaneously is the fastest route to burnout and giving up altogether. What if I told you there's a smarter approach? The financial domino effect shows that tackling just one key vulnerability first can actually trigger improvements across your entire financial picture. Let's get real. Most people are totally wasting their energy on the wrong financial moves. They're obsessing over finding the perfect investment when they don't even have an emergency fund. Or they're stressing about retirement planning when high-interest debt is eating them alive each month. It's like trying to redecorate your house while it's on fire. Not exactly the smartest strategy, right? Here's the thing. Financial improvement isn't an all-or-nothing game. Even baby steps in the right direction can dramatically strengthen your financial situation. But the key is knowing which step to take first. Think of your finances like a leaky boat. If you've got 6 holes and only enough materials to patch one, you better choose the biggest hole first. That's exactly how your financial priorities should work. The move that gives you the biggest protection per hour of effort is the one you should tackle immediately. This is where understanding your personal financial impact hierarchy becomes super important. What gives you the biggest return on your time and energy depends entirely on your unique situation. For someone drowning in high-interest credit card debt, their first domino might be debt reduction. For someone with zero emergency savings, building that first $1,000 buffer might be their critical first move. Research confirms that addressing one key vulnerability naturally creates a cascade effect. When you knock over that first financial domino, the others start falling into place too. What makes this approach so powerful is that fixing your biggest financial weakness often makes the other areas easier to address. For example, once you have an emergency fund in place, you're far less likely to rely on credit cards when unexpected expenses pop up, preventing new debt while you're paying off existing balances. Let me break this down into a simple 3-tier priority system based on your scorecard results. Tier 1, must-do moves, your financial emergencies needing immediate attention. Example, creating your first $1,000 emergency fund stops the cycle of new debt when surprises hit. Tier 2, should-do moves, medium priority items that strengthen your foundation. Example, expanding your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months creates true financial breathing room. Tier 3, nice-to-do moves, optimization strategies for an already solid foundation. Example, tax optimization can save thousands once your basics are covered. The contrast between targeted focus versus trying to fix everything is striking. Take Jamie and Michael, who started with similar situations: credit card debt, minimal savings, and financial anxiety. Jamie tried overhauling everything at once, cutting all expenses, starting multiple side hustles, and implementing complex investments. She burned out within weeks. Michael identified his emergency fund as his critical first domino and focused exclusively on building his first $1,000 safety net. Once in place, his financial anxiety decreased significantly. That mental clarity helped him create a sustainable debt payoff plan next. A year later, Michael had eliminated his high-interest debt and built a full 3-month emergency fund, while Jamie was back at square one. The focused approach isn't just easier, it's more effective at creating lasting financial change. Case studies show people who use this targeted improvement experience significantly less financial anxiety and improved overall mental health. Your wallet and your well-being both benefit. So what's your critical first financial domino? Let's identify it based on warning signs. If your emergency fund is practically empty, your first move should be building that initial $1,000 safety net. If you're drowning in high-interest debt, your first move should be implementing a debt reduction strategy, starting with your highest interest balances. If you have dependents but no life insurance, your first move should be securing basic coverage. If you're dependent on a single income with no backup, your first move should be establishing even a small secondary income stream. About 60% of people feel anxious when thinking about finances. But this anxiety decreases dramatically when people take even small steps toward addressing their vulnerabilities. You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to identify your critical first domino and knock it over. Here's your action plan. First, look at your financial resilience scorecard and identify your lowest score. That's almost certainly your critical domino. Then, break that area down into the smallest possible first step. For emergency funds, that might be opening a high-yield savings account with a $25 automatic transfer per paycheck. Studies show that individuals with specific financial goals who track their progress are significantly more likely to succeed. Those early wins fuel motivation to continue the journey. I challenge you right now. Before this video ends, write down your critical financial domino and the one small action you'll take today to start knocking it over. That single targeted move will give you the biggest return on your effort and set off a powerful chain reaction in your financial life. Your future self will thank you for taking action now instead of waiting for someday. Look, the scariest part of your financial life isn't the market crashing or unexpected expenses. It's what happens inside your head when money gets tight. Research shows that when your finances are unstable, your mental health takes a serious hit, with lower-income individuals up to 3 times more likely to experience depression and anxiety. Building a financial foundation helps you weather life's storms. Proactive planning, starting an emergency fund or learning about money each week, significantly improves both your financial resilience and mental well-being. Financial security comes from consistent actions taken before you need them. Download the Financial Resilience Scorecard today and tackle your most pressing vulnerability. Remember, every step you take protects not